So ever since Clavicular burst onto the scene, a lot of people have been wondering, how did this guy get so famous? Okay, his whole looks maxing community made him a star. He, brought these catchphrases to the mainstream attention: mogging, bone smashing, jester maxing, all of this crazy stuff that he's invented. But a lot of people have been asking, how did this guy get so famous? Well, it's been rumored for a long time that he's actually being funded by a billionaire sugar daddy that basically is just pushing the clavicular agenda into our algorithms to control the narrative of what's going on. And that person, you might have heard of him, people, is Peter Thiel. Okay, everybody's favorite billionaire villain. All right, they're saying he's the potential spawn of Satan, if you believe what's going on South Park, the Antichrist himself. And Channel 5, Andrew Callahan, he's been reporting that Peter Thiel is actually the man behind Clavicular's rise.
Of course, you have Palantir's Peter Thiel, the architect of our modern surveillance state. According to several of our whistleblower sources, Thiel is also personally invested in signal boosting friend of the show, Braden Clavicular Peters. This support and Clav's rapid viral rise makes total sense. Thiel has made a number of strange statements about the future of humanity.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would,
this is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions.
He seems to have a vested interest in creating a post-humanist, technologically transformed future wherein real people like you and I cease to exist in our flesh form, instead living on as immortal creatures up in the cloud.
Yeah, transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body.
This is not just like a Black Mirror style conspiracy fantasy. There is a race to create this kind of technology right now. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman is now involved with a startup called Nectome, who plan to preserve and then upload his brain after death as a base model for what's called cyber immortality. And Google co-founder Larry Page recently declared that digital life is the natural and desirable step in cosmic evolution. So in this context, it makes sense that someone like Clavicular, who has already sterilized himself by injecting peptides into his nuts and asked questions like, what's the ROI on love, when asked about going on a date with a potential romantic partner, would be algorithmically pushed to impressionable pubescent American boys.
It's dark, really, when you think about it, right? So this is in Livestream Fail. It says, I bet he's doing more than funding Clavicular. They're saying that boy earning them funds, all right? They're saying he putting in work on Peter Thiel. It says, this makes sense because Clav is boring as F. Who is watching this kid with no personality, barely converse with women? Young, directionless men, unfortunately. But here's the catch. They're not. Every single interview with Clav, every single mention of him accepts or propagates the premise that he's a youth role model. But in reality, the most you can actually see is some minor events where a few people ask him for autographs, and none of those seem organic. It's an astroturf premise that news outlets accept without really researching it. His view counts and general online presence is astroturfed and botted to stuff. Okay, said here's a good video about the clip farming economy. Basically, Clavicular and Kick is spending upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to third worlders to spam clips of himself. It's destroying social media. Says the Antichrist is up to no good. In other news, fork found in the kitchen. Right? He's an antichrist, they're saying. Says this guy funds loads of cancers. If there's some prominent figure pushing anti-intellectual or anti-science rhetoric or pushing distrust in experts, they're nearly always funded by Peter Thiel. Very similar to what Epstein did as well. These ghouls try and control everything in small ways that add up to make the world a little more stupid and a little easier to manipulate for their gain. May Thiel? No, we're not going to do that. But yeah, people aren't feeling him. They're saying he wants a new Epstein Island. They want Epstein World. He's an Epstein girl in an Epstein world. Life in the cloud while Clav gets plowed. You can shoot peptides, undress him to his tights. Imagination. Clav is Thiel's creation. All right. So, a lot of Peter Thiel and Epstein's emails were actually leaked during the Epstein files, and Epstein was an early advocate for Peter Thiel's company, Palantir. Now, shout out to all the Palantir shareholders getting that bag. This is apparently Epstein on tape advising former Israeli PM Barak Barak to approach Palantir founder Peter Thiel, and there you have it.
Two cyber companies. Look out, and even though I know Peter, I've never met Peter Thiel. And everybody says he sort of jumps around and acts sort of strange, like he's on drugs.
Smoking, yeah. He looks under drugs.
However, he has a company called Palantir, Pallen, T-I-E-R. Palantir is Peter Thiel's company. And look out.
Palantir, P-A-L-A-N-T-I-E-R?
Yes.
How you write Thiel? T-H-I-E-L-L-Y?
T-H-I-E-L.
L-L-Y?
No. T-H-I-E-L-L.
Okay.
So he thought that Peter would put you on the board of Palantir. Peter Thiel is one of the best. I've never met him. He's going to come here next week. So I wanted to talk to him after I talked to you.
Okay.
He and Andreessen, it's called Andreessen Horowitz. Andreessen Horowitz, they pay Larry $1 million a year just to advise them.
Andreas and?
A-N-D-R-E-E-S-O-N, Andreessen, and Horowitz.
And Howard?
H-O-R-O. Horowitz.
What they are? It's a lobbyist. What they are doing?
They are the biggest venture capital people in Silicon Valley.
What, bigger than Sequoia or Kleiner Perkins?
These are the new Kleiner Perkins. Everybody, these are the smart boys. Mm-hmm. So those two companies right away, in terms of, I said that we need now in the next 3 weeks if you're going to leave.
So Epstein's lining up all the great investments, all right, all the great behind-the-scenes investments into these companies that you can't get your hands on. But these shadowy figures, they're able to get their access to all of these most prominent companies in the world and invest in them early. Now, Palantir is a very shadowy defense company run by Peter Thiel, okay? They're publicly traded. You can invest in them. Some people have made a bag off of Palantir in the last few years. But basically, Palantir is kind of alarming, okay? The name Palantir, it comes from the all-seeing stones from the Lord of the Rings, right?
What's the hidden connection between... Yes, that Mandelson. The man arrested over allegations that he shared market-sensitive information with Jeffrey Epstein, the world's most famous paedophile. But Palantir's ties to Epstein go even deeper. Peter Thiel and Epstein cultivated an intimate business relationship years after the prolific paedophile's first arrest for child sex offences. And leaked recordings show that Epstein promoted Palantir to Israel via former Prime Minister Ehud Barak. There's no record of what Starmer discussed at Palantir HQ last February, and the visit...
So they're getting their hands on some of the biggest government organisations. In the UK, we got the NHS, you know, we got this socialised healthcare. It kind of sucks, but it's free. Everybody has it. Okay, you can access the NHS if you're an English person and not pay anything. It might take you a while, but they're saying Palantir is deeply involved. Keir Starmer, all right, Beer Starmer, okay. There's a lot of nicknames for this guy that I won't get into that I might get arrested for. But there's a lot of nicknames. Look, Keir Starmer, right? Not a great look what's going on in the UK right now. And Palantir is involved, okay? Now, Palantir employees were also heavily involved when Elon Musk's DOGE was apparently accessing the US social security database. So they basically got the information on everybody in both the UK and the US at this point. They got all your info.
Now to President Trump and Elon Musk's latest moves to reshape the federal government. The top Social Security official stepped down after Musk's team requested access to sensitive personal data about millions of Americans. Senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is tracking it from Mar-a-Lago.
After the 2025 presidential election, the Trump administration announced the creation of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, with the official aim to cut, quote, fraud, waste, and abuse in the public sector. Headed by Elon Musk, and with ex-employees of Palantir, Musk made an official goal of cutting $2 trillion in what he claimed was identifiable waste. In actuality, the final sum expected to be cut is $160 billion, with official estimates showing that DOGE's total operational cost to be around $130 billion itself. And according to a report from Yale's The Budget Lab, the measures to cut various government agencies is expected to create a net loss of $300 to $500 billion over the next decade. And despite this has been the Trump administration's greatest success. That's because DOGE is a lie. The point was never to cut fraud, waste, and abuse. It's a facade for an ambition much greater and far more consequential. In February of 2025, members of DOGE gained root access to a plethora of government IT systems, such as the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the U.S. Agency for International Development. But the real crucial one is the Social Security Administration, harboring one of the most sensitive databases in the United States. The birth dates, historical addresses, employment history, financial records of every single American. It doesn't take a genius to understand what is going on here, but what sells the terrifying endgame is the transparent, illegal nature of this. Federal courts have blocked DOGE from entering these databases after it was already done. But that's the point.
So they're calling this the largest heist in history, and Palantir got access to the social security info of every American for potentially a period of time, allegedly. All right. So Palantir are basically running the show. All right. They can do anything. They can find anything. They can find anyone. They have a lot of power. Now, Palantir recently released what has been described as a manifesto that many people are just calling the straight up ramblings of a supervillain.
So Palantir have posted a pretty bizarre manifesto, which has been described as the ramblings of a supervillain. People who don't know what Palantir is, it's a U.S. spy tech giant co-founded by the billionaire and J.D. Vance mentor, Peter Thiel. It's been called the world's scariest and most important company, and its tech has been used by everyone from ICE to the Israel Defense Forces. This weekend, its official account posted like a 22-point manifesto on X. Start of the post said, because we keep getting asked, but no one really knows who's asking. The key points included implying that some cultures are inferior to others. Some cultures have produced vital advances. Others remain dysfunctional and regressive, heaping praise on the U.S. for its role in global peace and progressive values, while saying that America should reinstate the military draft, and saying that free and democratic societies need hard power over soft power and moral appeal. Also said that Silicon Valley had an obligation to help out in things like national defense and violent crimes, and the future is AI war, because if we don't build the killer robots, our enemies will build them. The weirder points included saying multiple times we need to be nicer to public figures and billionaires. So this means not snickering at Elon Musk for not just staying in his lane and making boatloads of money. As Taylor Swift said, it's a good thing I like my friends canceled. But all of this is a worrying statement from an incredibly powerful company, one which demonstrates just how deeply embedded Palantir is in the Trump big tech axis, as someone from the tech nonprofit Foxglove told me. The list appears to be taken from the recent book of Palantir's CEO, the controversial billionaire Alex Karp. That book laments a widespread complacency among engineers and founders who build photo-sharing apps, as opposed to collaborating with governments to secure the West's dominant place in the geopolitical order. Side note, this is the guy who drew criticism recently for saying that AI would disrupt the power of childless cat ladies, highly educated, often female voters who vote mostly Democrat, and for last year suggesting that Palantir wants, when it's necessary, to scare enemies and, on occasion, kill them. You might see all this as the self-indulgent rambling of a powerful tech company, but it speaks to a larger movement that's happening right now, where a loose coalition of thinkers and executives in Silicon Valley are more and more interested in a vision of tech power merged with state power. And what all of this indicates is that Karp views himself as not simply the head of a software company, but a pundit with important insights into the future of civilization, one in which the West deserves to be globally dominant and should use the technological might of Palantir to achieve.
Yeah, it's disturbing. Okay, so bringing things full circle, this is a long article that basically breaks down the alleged links between Peter Thiel and Clavicular. Now we can understand how much power Palantir want to have. This guy, this industry plant that's basically being pushed to everybody on social media. You can't scroll X for a second without getting a clip of this guy. Okay, and I do find him interesting, but the fact that he's being foisted upon us by a very shadowy figure who seeks to control society in ways that we can't even understand is very scary. It says Clavicular's rumored links to Peter Thiel and his definitive ties with an Israeli crime figure. The world's most famous looks maxer is now bad influence maxing. All right. As I noted in my previous post, Braden Peters, more famously known as Clavicular, exploded out of nowhere last year to become one of the world's most famous influencers. Literally within the space of a month, Peters went from a relative unknown to a viral social media sensation. Clavicular's message was twofold. One, physical appearance is the most important determinant of your happiness and wealth. And two, the best way to improve your appearance is via looks maxing, which radically escalates personal grooming to include bone smashing, limb lengthening surgery, so the NBL, anabolic drugs, hanging weighted bags from your doodle, and perhaps most controversially, crystal meth for appetite suppression and fat loss. Shout out Anthony Colpo. Go and check out his Substack. It says in February, a streamer by the name of Michaela Mika Laluz paid $15,000 for a 30-minute interview with Peters. When the subject of their chat turned to his relationship with shady German-born billionaire Peter Thiel, Clavicular went into abort mode and declared the interview over. Cutting interviews short is becoming standard fare for Clav, but his response to Mika was unnaturally nasty. He told her she was a piece of shit, you're a shit reporter. A wholly unwarranted response given both her pleasant, non-combative demeanor and the fact she was asking about something that a lot of people would indeed like to know more about. Clavicular even tried to frame Mika, who is critical of Thiel and highlights his Epstein connections, as being a Thiel agent, a narrative eagerly repeated by Clav's so-called friend Sneeko. The second that I brought up Peter Thiel, he panicked, said Mika. He then flipped it on me and then said that I was the one funded by Peter Thiel. She added, he said that his team did research on me and that there was blockchain ties from Thiel's funded parties to my wallet, which is there's zero proof of that because it never happened. He literally couldn't show one single receipt that I'm Peter Thiel funded or Peter Thiel backed. Oh, wait. So why would Clavicular fabricate such a tale? Why would he get so agitated at the mention of Peter Thiel? Well, Thiel is perhaps best known for being co-founder and chairman of Palantir Technologies, a company that's developed surveillance technology for such charming entities as the genocidal Israeli Defense Force and the jackbooted US Immigration, Customs and Enforcement, ICE. Thiel is a transhumanist who is invested heavily in research aimed at extending his life. His own life, that is. He remains unsure as to whether the rest of us even deserve to survive. He plans to be cryogenically frozen upon his death, revived when technology allows, according to The Atlantic. He is among the parade of billionaires that invested millions into research on psychedelic drugs, which were recently the subject of a favorable executive order by Thiel's buddy and fellow Epstein associate Donald Trump. Oh dear. As I wrote recently, Thiel is a major backer of the Enhanced Games, which openly allows performance-enhancing drugs among its athletes. Enhanced has publicly stated that it will use its athletes as research subjects to find out more about safe performance-enhancing drug use. Long-term use of testosterone and anabolic steroids, I will remind readers reliably, includes temporary and sometimes permanent sterility, which aligns nicely with the parasite class's depopulation fetish. Is Clavicular, who uses anabolic drugs and controversially cites methamphetamine microdosing as an effective method for achieving leanness and chiseled facial features, yet another Thiel-backed drug experiment? Ain't no party like a Thiel party. Before spitting the dummy at Mika, Clav admitted to getting an invite to a Peter Thiel party, which he says he never attended. He also mentioned this in video footage that has been posted to Twitter. We'll discuss just what sort of parties Thiel might be throwing and why he might want a handsome young lad like Clavicular to attend in a moment. Okay, we've seen this clip before. Before aborting the interview with Mika, he nervously said, I was like, I think I claimed I worked for Peter Thiel or something. Said, you did, replied Mika. Not really, replied Clavs. Apparently, there's something to do with, like, the fashion. Clav appeared evasive and was not making much sense.
Like where you said Peter Thiel invited you to, like, his own version of a Diddy party. Was that fake?
I was told that in San Diego, and I just never wound up showing up, so...
What was it like getting contacted by that type of person?
It wasn't direct, so it was just through a mutual. I was like, I think I claimed that I worked for Peter Thiel or something.
You did.
Not really. You know, apparently there's something to do with like the fashion.
So he's getting the invite to the Diddy party, all right, to the Peter Thiel, to the Tiddy party, if you will. So... from here it says, Clav appeared evasive and was not making much sense. However, we do know Clav has modeled for fashion designer Elena Velez, who is also widely rumored to be associated with Thiel. Did Thiel arrange the modeling gig with Velez? I can understand Clav's reluctance to elaborate on whatever ties he may have with Thiel. The last young guy with model-like looks who did that ended up falling off a balcony. Oh, boy. This is getting deep. Remember we talked about that on the channel recently? That ill-fated young fellow was Jeff Thomas, an Instagram influencer and model who died after falling from his Miami high-rise in March 2023. Prior to his death, Thomas had been talking candidly with The Intercept reporter Ryan Grimm about his relationship with his billionaire sugar daddy Peter Thiel. Thomas and Thiel met at Coachella in 2015 or 16, and over time the two became close and their arrangement developed despite Thiel's 2017 marriage to investment banker Matt Danzizian. Prior to parting ways, Thiel had purchased a $13 million Hollywood Hills mansion for Thomas to live in. Interestingly, reports The Intercept, before Thomas moved in, the home was owned by leading figures in the bizarre S-cult that ensnared Smallville actress Allison Mack and Seagram's heiress Claire Bonferman. Thomas and Thiel, a major funder of Republican candidates, hosted prolific gay S-parties at Hollywood Hills' home, which could get raucous. Thiel himself would sometimes do the recruiting, it seems, Thiel or someone using his Facebook account reached out to a UCLA student despite having no friends in common and invited him to a party describing the poolside scene. Hot guys at a pool sounds like a pretty idyllic gay activity to me, the student responded, according to screenshots of the conversation obtained by The Intercept. The conversation then moved to WhatsApp, where Thiel's account replied, well, it doesn't stay idyllic for long, but always lots of fun, adding later, yeah, we know how to have some no-holds-barred gay fun. Thomas, who leaned to the left, said he clashed with Thiel on politics. He tried to dissuade Thiel from continuing to support causes that hurt the LGBTQ+ community. By late 2022, he had been tired of being a toy boy and was looking to exit the relationship. I don't think it's very satisfying, to be honest, to be kept, Thomas told Grimm in October 2022. I saw the spark in me fade away, and it was toxic. It was unhealthy. I've had multiple talks with myself this year about getting out of it. I've actually discussed to him about, like, I can't do this anymore. You know, my mental health is at risk. And Thomas eventually moved out the Hollywood Hills house and to Miami, though he and Thiel stayed in touch. Thomas attended a New Year's Eve party at Thiel's Miami Beach compound, despite not being included on the guest list, an appearance that infuriated Thiel's husband, Dan Zeeson. On March the 8th, 2023, Thomas was found dead, and Miami police ruled it his own decision. Sibling Skylar Ray Thomas seemed to concur with the Miami PD, suggesting his brother was suffering from addiction and mental health challenges. Thomas's agent, Luli Batista, begged to differ, telling the Daily Mail, I just can't believe it's true that he intentionally did this. She had said the two had been engaged in a friendly text exchange in which he'd reportedly been joking about an upcoming audition. He seemed thrilled and was proud of himself, lamented Batista. He was happy and motivated and excited for his next step, just loving life. Batista suggested Thomas fell while taking a selfie. Thomas's cousin Megan Ray emphatically told the Daily Mail she didn't believe it. This was not that. To report otherwise is a complete disregard to his character and who he is. The information being published is false and defamatory. No further comments will be made by our family. Please respect our privacy and his memory during this difficult time. So, who is Clav's secret funder? I'm not suggesting Clav has been T-diddled or has taken over from Thomas as Thiel's new side Chico. The Twister video above indicates that Clav is aware of Thiel's reputation and wants no part of his sleazy parties. I don't want to get diddled, a comment he claims got him blacklisted from future Thiel parties, is probably the only refreshing thing I've ever heard Clav say. Before, I don't want to get sued, so just, this is just somebody else's opinion, all right? I'm not supporting or denying any of the opinions contained within this article, and these are all opinions, allegedly, all of that stuff, okay? But there may be another avenue through which Thiel is channeling money to Clav. Last November, Clav set a new record by receiving the most money given to a streamer via donations in a single stream, 35 grand. At the time, he had 27,000 followers on Kick. Aiden Ross has 2 million followers, rendering Clav's record-breaking session well beyond any reasonable expectations. It appears Clav has a mystery benefactor called P. Here he is during a stream crediting P with having donated over $500,000 to his live stream. You're joking. You're joking. Where's P?
Is to take over 10 hours for the stream marathon, so I'm going to try to work some of that in. But P, he's going crazy, man. Already donated 500 and 150 subs. What the fuck? Crazy. P, wait, what? WP? Yeah, put on Pusha P, his song. Actually, I don't know how to connect the whatever. So I'm gonna throw some. What do we got here? We got 30 MG.
How many P's? How many dudes that go by P do you think have $500,000 to donate to this clown on Kick? I don't think many. People are saying it's Clavicular's mystery sugar daddy P, actually the billionaire Peter Thiel. Since the beginning of his streaming career, a mysterious person known only as P has been Clav's #1 donator. In Clavicular's very first week streaming on Kick alone, P dropped over 150 grand on him. Since then, he's continued showering him with occasional $1,000 donations. In total, it's estimated P has funneled around $500,000 to Clavicular over the course of his roughly 3-month streaming run. And that's not even counting the funding he provided for Clav's $280,000 Maybach Sprinter van. Things took an even wilder turn during Clavicular's brief visit to Los Angeles, where he received an exclusive invite to a private party held at Peter Thiel's $11.5 million Hollywood Hills mansion. People think it's P, right? Naturally, the internet suspects this mystery donor to be Peter Thiel. The speculation makes sense given Thiel's established record of spending big money on handsome young males and his penchant for funding pro-drug endeavors. Some of his initiatives, like the Thiel Fellowship that gives young entrepreneurs 100 grand to drop out of college and pursue business ideas, further align with the ethos of sponsoring unconventional talent. It all remains speculation at this stage, a situation not helped by Kick's refusal to elaborate on the mystery donor. As I'll detail in a future article, social media and live streaming platforms are tailor-made for money laundering, so much so that the Mexican cartels have firmly dug their hooks into the influencer sphere too. Wow, all right? Hey, if the cartels want to send a little super comment, a little cheer, whatever it is where you can donate money down in the comments of this video, hey, right? Let's go. You know what I'm saying? I'll take it. I'll take it, okay? I'll do another El Mencho video for everybody. But anyway, it says, while Clav's exact relationship with Peter Thiel remains unclear, there's no arguing about his ties to another highly dubious figure. Okay, here's where we're going to get conspiratorial. I can't lie to you. Usually when Israel gets brought up, my eyes start glazing over. I'm thinking, here we go, conspiracy theory. But let's hear it, all right? Clav's new business partner, Israeli-born criminal High Whack 9. Sounds like a rapper. Born in Israel and raised in California, High Whack 9 first came to the attention of law enforcement as a student at San Fernando Valley's Grant High School in March 1989. A popular teacher named Hal Arthur was shot to death outside of his Sherman Oaks home. At least 10 students suspected Whack 9. He smoked a teacher? He had a belligerent reputation, and they thought a beef with a teacher. Detectives questioned Whack 9 for 6 hours, but they let him go after he passed a polygraph test. So that's how easy it was back then. By 2003, LA police had not only been pursuing Whack 9 for 14 years, but were now collaborating with federal agents and foreign police. Collectively, they amassed evidence of his connections to an Israeli crime syndicate called the Jerusalem Group and his alleged involvement in drug trafficking, money laundering, and extortion. Whack 9's brother, Asaf, had been sent to prison in New York after pleading guilty in 1997 to participating in an elaborate scheme to rack up $125,000 a day on bogus Amex cards. What a finesse. Whack 9, meanwhile, was living the high life, reportedly paying $10,000 hands in Vegas without pause, dropping $5,000 on top shelf champagne and vodka at exclusive clubs, and partying with celebrities, rappers, and strippers, and Russian blondes. He was living life. The cops finally caught a break. He's killing his teachers and playing $10,000 hands in Vegas. What the what? The cops finally caught a break courtesy of Gabriel Ben Harosh, another alleged member of the Jerusalem Group who had fled to the US with cash embezzled from an Israeli bank. In August 2003, a wiretap captured Ben Harosh and Whack 9 conspiring to launder the embezzled money. Whack 9 was arrested and charged before facing trial, pleading guilty to racketeering, and while awaiting sentencing, US Marshals hauled Whack 9, who had been free on bond, back into court in manacles. After an informant said that he planned to flee to meet his brother Asaf, who had been released from prison in Mexico. The following month, Whack 9 shuffled into court handcuffed to other prisoners. He meekly asked U.S. District Judge Manuel Real for leniency, and Real responded by sentencing Whack 9 to 10 years in the feds, yet 1 year more than prosecutors were even asking for. In December that year, Whack 9 shuffled into court again for a restitution hearing, and prosecutors recommended he paid a total of $406,000 to his victims, and Whack 9's attorney told Real that he approved of the government's proposal. The government is not the one to make the order. I am Real snapped before ordering Whack 9 to repay $646,000. Last year, authorities were in pursuit of Whack 9's brother Asaf, who had been deported from the US in 2011 and believed to still be living in Mexico. Asaf had been remotely demanding money from the hosts of private high-dollar poker games in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. When one of the hosts dismissed Asaf's threatening text, the latter retorted, I guess you really want to end up like your other bitch-ass poker buddy. Asaf was referring to the 2023 death of Emil Lahaziel, 39, who was shot in the face as he walked out of a poker game in the Hollywood Hills. Stay out of those illegal gambling games. Lahaziel himself had a lengthy criminal record in his native Israel. A Homeland Security Investigations affidavit said that he owed $1.5 million in a bankruptcy case. According to the affidavit, phone records showed Lahaziel was in communication with High Whack 9, often trading texts about expensive watches and fancy cars. Then shortly before his death, Lahaziel began sending inflammatory and threatening messages to the Whack 9 brothers, the agent wrote. High Whack 9, who ended up serving around 6 years for his racketeering conviction, has not been charged in the case. Instead, he's strutting around Miami as a free man with his influencer wife, Cece Whack 9. Okay. Last year, he was photographed at Trump's Mar-a-Lago with former Philly mobster turned influencer Joey Molino. I've read a lot about him. He's a serious guy too. I guess Trump won't be ordering ICE to deport Whack 9 anytime soon. The orange groper clearly saves that for the okay. Oh, all right. I'm scared. I don't want to get in trouble. When he's not posting with convicted felons inside Trump's estate, he's introducing his Israeli fence to none other than Clavicular, a recently reopened Miami nightclub called the Baccara Club. You're supposed to believe Baccara was recently purchased by Clav. You're supposed to believe that Clav, in his short career as a popular streamer, amassed enough wealth to purchase a $5 million venue. Here is the post that's going around. Clavicular is officially the owner of a $5 million nightclub at only 20 years old. He's the face of it. But this untenable crock was recently dismantled by YouTuber John Bravo, who discovered the club's real owner was High Whack 9. Oh no. And is that Is there connections to WAC 100? I don't even know. I was thinking WAC 9 sounds like WAC 100, but we're talking about different people. It says, following the steps of the El Creepo influencers like Andrew Tate and Jack Doherty, Clav started an OF management agency. Bravo posits the Baccara arrangement is calculated and seemingly of mutual benefit, as Peters brings a large following to the venue using his social media reach while gaining a share of its profits and using the location to recruit women for his agency. All is well that not ends well. All's not well that doesn't end well. Unlike most other manosphere grifters who have the personality of a multiple car crash, Peters has far more even demeanor, albeit one prone to social anxiety and awkwardness. I get the impression that somewhere underneath that facade of clout-seeking absurdity lay the remains of what was once a nice kid. That kid sadly has sold his soul in desperation for fame, money, and acceptance, has turned to drugs dishonestly, and is mixed in with a cast of regrettable characters no sane parent would ever want their child anywhere near. Everyone from pretend alpha Andrew Tate to bona fide Israeli felon high whack 9. Unless Peters snaps out of his stupor, I don't see this ending well. Even his PR agent, who would probably represent the devil himself, has abandoned him. Mitchell Jackson, a married gay man, has a client list that includes everyone from Candace Owens to Adam 22. All right. It says publicists who drop their clients when they're in trouble are scum of the earth, Jackson told a New York Times reporter last year. 2 weeks ago, right after Peter's now infamous drug overdose at a Miami club, people reported that Mitchell had dropped Clav as a client. Mitchell's might have dumped Clav, but the campaign to mess up young minds marches on relentlessly. The revelation that Clavicular received hundreds of thousands in donos from a mystery donor, be it Peter Thiel or someone else, goes a long way towards explaining how he exploded out of nowhere to become one of the world's most famous influencers. Someone really wants Clav's pro-superficiality, pro-drug message getting out to as many young minds as possible. Shout out to Anthony Colpo. What an amazing and interesting article. Can't say I agree with everything in there, but definitely very, very interesting. So look, there's the industry plant allegations, right? They're saying Peter Thiel is funding Clavicular and he's trying to ruin your life and your mind in the process. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You can go ahead and donate $500,000 down below if you want as a super cheer, super thanks, whatever they call those. Please, you know what I'm saying? I'm down Israeli mafia. Let's get that bag for real. I'm joking. Please don't do that. I'm a very ethical person, all right? I don't do gambling sponsorships, none of that. So I'm not into that, all right? Shout out to Morgan & Morgan. They're actually good people to do business with. But anyway, that's the end of the video. Catch you guys in the next one. Catch you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching these. I'm out. Bye.